In the grand halls of the Galactic Senate, Senator Padmé Amidala stood at the center of a storm. The polished marble walls echoed with the passionate debates of representatives from across the galaxy, yet all Padmé could hear was the steady beat of her own heart, a rhythm that only quieted in Anakin's presence. The weight of her responsibilities pressed heavily upon her shoulders. As a senator, she was tasked with navigating the turbulent waters of a galaxy at war. Yet, hidden beneath her composed exterior, a secret thrived, a love that flourished amid chaos. The clamor of voices faded as she found herself lost in thought, her mind drifting back to the fleeting moments she shared with Anakin. Their evenings together, away from the watchful eyes of the Senate, were filled with laughter and whispered dreams. She cherished their shared secrets, knowing that each laugh, each soft touch was a refuge from the tumult of their lives. Padmé glanced out of the large window in her office, overlooking the sprawling cityscape of Coruscant. The twin suns had dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the skyline. It was a view that always made her heart swell, especially when she envisioned sharing it with Anakin. As she prepared for her next Senate session, Padmé's thoughts turned to her duty. The debate that day revolved around the increasing influence of the Separatists, and Padmé had been working tirelessly to rally support for a diplomatic resolution. But in the back of her mind lingered the unease of her secret marriage. She had known from the start that their union would face scrutiny, yet the profound connection she shared with Anakin eclipsed any fear of exposure. Still, every glance from colleagues felt like an accusation. Every murmur from the Senate floor felt like a step closer to betrayal.
Senator Amidala, are you ready?
A voice pulled her from her reverie. It was Bail Organa, her trusted ally and friend. He stood at the doorway, concern etched on his face.
Yes, I'm ready.
She replied, masking her inner turmoil with a practiced smile.
Let's move forward.
As they entered the grand chamber, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Senators shouted, clashing ideologies erupting like blaster fire. The room pulsated with fervor, yet Padmé stood firm, drawing strength from her love for Anakin. She raised her hand to silence the crowd, her voice steady and commanding.
We must remember the values of diplomacy and understanding. We cannot allow fear to dictate our actions. There are lives at stake.
Her words were met with both support and disdain. At that moment, she felt the weight of her position, balancing her passion for peace with the necessity of power. Yet, deep down, Padmé knew her true battle lay not just in the Senate, but in the delicate balance of her heart, between love and duty, between the man she adored and the galaxy she swore to protect. After the session concluded, she slipped away to a secluded balcony. As the stars began to twinkle above, Padmé whispered Anakin's name, longing for the comfort of his presence. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to imagine his arms enveloping her. Just then, the faint sound of footsteps behind her made her turn. It was Anakin, stepping out of the shadows, his blue eyes alight with mischief and warmth.
Padmé.
He breathed as if the mere sight of her banished the war raging beyond the Senate walls.
I couldn't stay away.
In that moment, the galaxy outside faded, and the burdens of war fell away. Together, they stood on the edge of a new beginning, unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon, a storm that threatened to unravel everything they had built. As Padmé and Anakin stood together under the starlit sky, their moment of tranquility was suddenly interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. Padmé's heart raced as she turned to see a trio of Jedi emerging from the shadows of the balcony's archway. Master Yoda, with his ancient wisdom etched across his green visage, was flanked by Masters Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The weight of their presence was palpable, and an icy chill crept into Padmé's heart.
Senator Amidala,
Obi-Wan began, his voice a blend of calm and concern.
we must speak with you immediately. It is a matter of great importance.
Anakin stepped protectively closer to Padmé, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the council members.
What's going on? Is this about the Senate?
No, Anakin.
Mace interrupted, his voice firm yet measured.
It concerns both you and Senator Amidala. We know of your marriage.
Padmé's breath caught in her throat.
You... what?
She stammered, bewildered, feeling a mix of anger and fear swirl within her. In this story, Anakin and Padmé's marriage is no secret to the Jedi, and the Jedi will use this information to the max to control Anakin. How would this situation play out? Will Anakin fall to the dark side? Stay tuned in this episode of What If. Before we continue, I want to tell you about this episode's sponsor, Fantasy Sabers. Let me tell you, it is a dream for me to own my own lightsabers. Fantasy Saber makes quality lightsaber with customizable parts that really make me feel like a Jedi or Sith if I feel a bit naughty that day. But nonetheless, they are one of the best sabers you can find in the market out there. If you're into cosplaying, they have high-quality replicas, and if you just want to mess around with your buddies, they also have their own takes in lightsabers they come up with themselves. Go check them out in the link in the description to get your own saber and live out your fantasy of being in Star Wars right now. Now, back to the story. Yoda stepped forward, his gaze piercing yet understanding.
In the shadows, whispers there are. Secrets kept in the light of day. Hidden they cannot be. Concerned, the Council is for your well-being and for Anakin's path.
Anakin's posture stiffened, a storm brewing behind his blue eyes.
With all due respect, you have no right to interfere in my personal life,
He said, his voice low and fierce.
Interference it is not.
Yoda replied, his tone gentle yet resolute.
A matter of urgency, this is. Dark times lie ahead, the future clouded, and troubling signs we see in you, Anakin.
Padme's heart sank. She could feel the tension radiating from Anakin, and she wanted nothing more than to soothe him.
What do you mean?
She asked, her voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Mace Windu stepped forward, his expression grave.
We are concerned that you may not be able to resist the dark side, Anakin. Your passion, your attachments, while they can be a source of strength, they can also lead to fear and anger. These are the paths that lead to darkness. We believe Padme's guidance could help you navigate these tumultuous feelings.
Anakin's gaze shifted between the Jedi and Padme, a mixture of frustration and disbelief.
You think I need her help to control my feelings? To suppress my love?
He turned to Padme, his voice dropping to a whisper.
They don't understand us. They never will.
Padme felt a pang of helplessness.
They're worried about you, Anakin.
She said gently.
You know they care. I care.
Anakin shook his head, his emotions swirling within him.
I can't be told how to feel. Not by the Council or anyone else.
Control, Anakin.
Obi-Wan interjected, his voice calm yet insistent.
This isn't about control. It's about understanding. Padme can help you find balance, a way to embrace your emotions without succumbing to them. It is a crucial moment in your training.
The gravity of their request settled heavily in the air. Padme's heart ached at the thought of Anakin struggling alone, caught in a battle between light and dark. If you'll allow me, she spoke softly, her voice laced with determination. I'll do everything I can to support you, Anakin, but you must promise to be open with me. No secrets. Anakin looked into her eyes, the fire within him flickering like the distant stars.
I'll try, Padme. I promise.
He said, though uncertainty still lingered.
Good.
Yoda said, a glimmer of approval in his eyes.
A choice to be made, young Skywalker. Choose wisely. You must.
As the Jedi began to retreat, Padme's mind raced. The burden of their secret now bore down heavier than ever. Together they would face the shadows, but what price would they pay for love amidst a galaxy fraught with danger? The weight of the Jedi Council's request pressed heavily on Padme as she returned to her apartment later that evening. The serene cityscape of Coruscant, usually a source of comfort, felt suffocating. She paced the ornate room, the glow of city lights casting long shadows on the walls, mirroring the uncertainty in her heart. Reluctantly, she had agreed to work with the Jedi, believing it was the only way to protect Anakin from the dark path that lay ahead. But how could she influence him without stifling the very love that made her whole? She could still see the hurt in Anakin's eyes when they had spoken. His frustration with the Jedi was palpable, and Padme knew he felt cornered. It was vital to tread carefully. If he sensed manipulation, it could push him further away. Sighing, she turned to the window, searching for clarity in the vastness of the stars. It was a daunting task, yet she was determined to guide him, whatever it took. The next morning, Padme attended a Senate meeting that would address escalating tensions in the Outer Rim. As the discussions unfolded, she caught Anakin's eye from across the chamber. He sat with the other Jedi, his posture tense and closed off. When their gazes locked, a flicker of warmth ignited in his expression, momentarily softening the hard lines of his face. It gave her hope, a reminder of the love they shared and the light it could bring. After the session, Padme approached Anakin in the hallway, her heart racing.
Anakin,
She called softly, drawing him away from the noise of the bustling Senate.
can we talk?
He sighed, running a hand through his hair, frustration etched on his features.
What's there to talk about? The Jedi think they can control me.
They're not trying to control you.
She said gently.
They just want to help. And I want to help too. We can find a way to navigate this together.
His brow furrowed as he met her gaze. searching for sincerity.
How? By pretending? By listening to their every word?
No,
Padme replied firmly, stepping closer.
by understanding your feelings and channeling them into something powerful. You can be a great Jedi, Anakin, but you need to learn balance.
His silence hung in the air, and Padme felt the weight of his indecision.
What do you want me to do?
He finally asked, his voice low.
Start by being more open about your emotions, especially with the Council. If they see you're willing to share, they might trust you more. Maybe it can help ease their concerns.
He looked away, conflicted.
You mean just let them in on everything? You know they won't understand.
Not everything,
She said softly.
just enough to show them your strength, your commitment. It could change their perspective.
Anakin stared into the distance, the internal battle evident in his expression. Finally, he nodded slowly.
I'll think about it.
Over the following weeks, Padme found herself subtly steering conversations with Anakin, gently guiding him toward the decisions the Jedi Council desired. When he expressed doubts about his ability to lead missions, she encouraged him, reminding him of his unique gifts and insights.
You have a connection to the Force that few possess.
She would say, her voice warm with conviction.
Use that to inspire others.
In private moments, she would share stories of leaders who overcame their fears through understanding and vulnerability, instilling in him a belief that he could do the same. With each passing day, she hoped to influence his choices without suffocating his spirit. Yet, with every victory came the gnawing fear that the Council's agenda might push Anakin further from her. Would he come to see her as merely an agent of their will? Padme's heart ached with the weight of her duplicity. She could only pray that her love would be strong enough to guide them both through the darkness, that she could be the beacon of light he so desperately needed. As the galaxy plunged deeper into turmoil, Padme resolved to walk this precarious path, balancing the expectations of the Jedi with the fierce love she held for Anakin. It was a tightrope act fraught with danger, but for the sake of their love and the future of the galaxy, she would do whatever it took. Days turned into weeks, and Padmé Amidala found herself ensnared in a complex web of duty, love, and moral uncertainty. Each meeting with Anakin had become a delicate dance, a careful balance between the Jedi's expectations and her own judgments. While she wanted to support him, the pressure from the Jedi Council was suffocating, and her own beliefs about justice and compassion began to feel compromised. Anakin's powers were growing rapidly, and while that should have filled Padme with pride, she instead felt a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. He had become a remarkable warrior, his abilities in the Force seemingly boundless. Yet, with every display of power, she witnessed darker undercurrents surfacing. During training sessions, his frustrations bubbled over, manifesting in outbursts that shocked even the most seasoned Jedi.
Don't you understand? We can't just sit back and watch while they suffer.
He yelled one day in the training room, his lightsaber slicing through the air with reckless abandon. The anger in his voice echoed against the walls, sending ripples of concern through Padme's heart.
Anakin,
She said, stepping closer, her voice soft yet firm.
the Jedi believe in patience and understanding. Acting out of anger only leads to destruction.
He paused, breathing heavily, and for a moment, his blue eyes locked onto hers, revealing the turmoil beneath the surface.
I know what the Jedi want, Padme. But what if their way is not the right way? What if I can do more?
The intensity of his gaze pierced through her, and Padme felt a swell of emotions battling within her.
You can do more, but not if you allow your anger to control you.
She urged, her heart breaking at the thought of him spiraling further away from her.
You have to find a way to channel that passion positively. It's what makes you strong.
Yet, despite her encouragement, the anger continued to creep into his actions, even in their private moments. Padme often found herself tiptoeing around his emotions, gauging his reactions, and feeling like a puppet in a grand scheme. With each instance of Anakin's fury, a creeping doubt settled deep within her mind. Were the Jedi truly acting in Anakin's best interests, or were they merely using him as a tool for their own ends? She started to question their motives and methods more openly, drawing away from her initial trust in their wisdom. As the galaxy descended into deeper chaos, Padme felt increasingly isolated. The pressure of the Senate, the weight of her secret marriage, and the burden of her growing doubts combined to create a constant, gnawing tension in her heart. One evening, after another heated debate in the Senate regarding the war, she sat alone in her apartment, staring out at the sprawling cityscape. The neon lights flickered like distant stars, and she couldn't help but wonder if she was losing Anakin to a galaxy that demanded too much from him. Her thoughts swirled as she reflected on the countless times she had placed Anakin's fate in the hands of the Jedi. Was it wrong to trust them with the man she loved? She had been convinced they were the guardians of peace, but their rigid methods now seemed to come at the expense of compassion and understanding.
Padme?
Anakin's voice broke through her reverie, and she turned to see him standing in the doorway, his expression a mix of concern and determination.
I felt you were troubled. What's wrong?
She hesitated, torn between honesty and the desire to shield him from the burden she bore.
It's just the war, the council, everything. I worry about you, Anakin. I see how much pressure you're under, and I wonder if the Jedi truly have your best interests at heart.
His jaw tightened, and she could see the internal conflict etched across his features.
The Jedi want to keep me in a box, Padme. They fear my power because they don't understand it. But I won't let them stifle me. I want to protect you and the Republic, even if that means stepping outside their constraints.
Panic washed over her.
But at what cost, Anakin? You're walking a dangerous path. I love you too much to lose you to darkness.
In that moment, she felt the vast chasm between them widen, and tears brimmed in her eyes. Anakin reached for her, pulling her into an embrace, but the warmth of his arms did little to quell the storm inside her. Padme realized that as much as she loved Anakin, she had to confront the growing shadows, both within him and the Council, if there was any hope of saving him from a fate she feared was already sealed. The weight of her decisions loomed large, and she knew the path ahead was fraught with danger, testing the limits of her love, her loyalty, and her very soul. The days blurred into a whirlwind of responsibilities, sleepless nights, and the weight of secrets Padmé Amidala carried deep within her heart. Just when she thought she had found a delicate balance in her tumultuous life, a new reality crashed upon her. She was pregnant. The revelation came one quiet evening as she prepared for bed, the cool glow of the city lights filtering through her window. A sense of overwhelming joy and fear surged through her, mingling in a chaotic storm of emotions. This child, the embodiment of her love for Anakin, was a beacon of hope in a galaxy steeped in darkness. Yet the implications of her pregnancy threatened to unravel the fragile threads of her life. She felt a deep, instinctual desire to confide in Anakin, to reveal their secret, and to abandon the manipulative role she had been playing at the behest of the Jedi Council. But as she contemplated the risks, fear clawed at her heart. What if the Council saw this child as a liability? They had already expressed their desire to exert control over Anakin's decisions through her influence, and Padme couldn't shake the feeling that they would only see her pregnancy as a tool to bind him to their cause. She could almost hear Yoda's voice echoing in her mind, urging her to tread carefully to protect both Anakin and the unborn child from the dark currents swirling around them. Yet how could she protect Anakin if she remained a pawn in the Jedi's game? The following day, as Padme arrived at the Senate, her heart raced at the thought of revealing her pregnancy to Anakin, but she also understood the gravity of her decision. If she shared the news, it could shatter the tenuous hold she had over the Council's expectations. Would Anakin feel pressured to abandon his Jedi duties to protect their family? Could he still fight for the Republic while grappling with the responsibilities of fatherhood? As she navigated the Senate floor, her mind was consumed with doubt. Later that afternoon, she met with Anakin in the quiet sanctuary of her apartment. He arrived with a stormy expression, his frustration at the Jedi's continued demands clear on his face.
Padme,
He said, pacing restlessly.
they want me to take on even more dangerous missions. I can't believe how little they trust me. It's like they're afraid of what I might become.
His anguish tugged at her heart. She longed to comfort him, to tell him everything would be okay, but the words felt stuck in her throat.
Anakin, you have to remember that they care about you. They just want to protect you. And the Republic.
He turned to her, his eyes fierce yet pleading.
But at what cost? They want to control every aspect of my life. I feel like I'm losing myself.
Padme stepped closer, taking his hands in hers, her heart pounding.
You don't have to lose yourself. You can find your own path, but it might mean taking a different direction than what they want.
In that moment, the urge to reveal her pregnancy surged within her, but the door chimed, cutting through their intimate moment. The Jedi Council's envoy had arrived for a scheduled meeting, and Padme reluctantly let go of Anakin's hands. As the door opened, Yoda stepped inside, followed closely by Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi. The atmosphere shifted instantly, the air thickening with tension.
Padme,
Yoda began, his gaze penetrating.
concerning your influence on Anakin, we must discuss it.
Anakin's posture stiffened, a mixture of defiance and irritation radiating from him. Padme felt a surge of protectiveness for both him and their child.
Master Yoda?
She interjected, forcing herself to maintain her composure.
I believe Anakin has the strength to make his own choices.
Your bond with him, a vital factor it is.
Yoda replied, undeterred.
The Council believes you can guide him toward clarity, a heavy burden we place upon you both.
Anakin's frustration flared.
You don't understand. I won't be manipulated by the Council, Padme or no Padme.
Anakin, please.
She urged, her voice trembling with urgency.
Let's just listen to what they have to say.
Concerned we are.
Mace Windu said, his tone steely.
That your emotions may cloud your judgment. You are not just a senator now, Padme. You are the anchor in Anakin's life.
The weight of their expectations bore down on her, each word intensifying the conflict within her. She felt like a ship caught in a storm, tossed between her love for Anakin, her duties to the Senate, and the encroaching influence of the Jedi. As the conversation continued, Padme glanced at Anakin, searching for any sign of the man she had fallen in love with. She could see the darkness creeping in, the strain of the Council's demands taking its toll. Anakin was not just a Jedi, he was her husband and soon to be a father. The very fabric of their family hung in the balance, and she knew she had to make a choice. If the Jedi pushed for control, she would have to stand firm and protect what they had built together. No longer could she remain a pawn in their game. It was time to reclaim her agency for her and for their child. But how? The answer eluded her, like a distant star flickering just beyond her reach. As she faced the Council and Anakin's mounting frustrations, she felt a resolve solidifying within her. Whatever path lay ahead, she would fight for her family, even if it meant standing against the very forces she once trusted. The tension in the room thickened. Each word exchanged a spark that could ignite an inferno. Padmé Amidala stood at the crossroads of her life, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The presence of the Jedi Council felt suffocating, a constant reminder of the pressure she had been under. Their expectations weighed heavily on her shoulders, but as she glanced at Anakin, she felt the pull of her own convictions igniting a fire within her.
Enough.
She said suddenly, her voice steady but resolute.
This isn't right. None of this is right.
The Jedi paused, exchanging glances of confusion and surprise. Anakin's eyes widened, his surprise quickly turning to curiosity.
What do you mean, Padme?
He asked, his voice taut with anticipation. Taking a deep breath, she continued,
I've been playing a role that isn't mine to play. I agreed to guide you, to support the Council's agenda, but I've realized that their manipulation goes deeper than I first thought. They want to control you, Anakin, using me as their instrument.
The room fell silent, and Anakin's gaze darkened, a storm brewing behind his blue eyes.
What do you mean? What do they want from you?
They want you to conform to their expectations, to be a Jedi in a way that serves their interests.
She said, feeling the weight of her confession as it settled in.
They think I can influence you, make you see things their way. But I refuse to be a pawn in their game. And I refuse to let them dictate your path.
Anakin's expression shifted, a mixture of anger and confusion swirling within him.
Why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have fought back.
Because I was afraid.
She admitted, her voice trembling.
Afraid of losing you, of what it might mean for our future. But we cannot continue like this. The burden is too great, and I can't be a part of this manipulation anymore. Not when it compromises everything we stand for.
She stepped closer, locking her gaze with his.
Anakin, I want us to be free. I want us to carve our own path, one that is not dictated by the Jedi or the Senate.
Free?
He echoed, the word heavy on his lips.
What do you propose?
We leave. Leave the Jedi Order, leave the Senate, leave all of it behind.
She said, her heart racing. We can start anew, raise our child in a world that isn't bound by the constraints of the war or the expectations of those who don't truly understand us. Anakin stared at her, his mind racing, caught between disbelief and a flicker of hope.
You would leave everything behind? The Republic? Your work? Your dreams?
Yes, if it means protecting you and our child. I would do anything for you both.
Padme replied, her voice steady with conviction. This war isn't the life we envisioned. We can build something better, together.
Padme.
He whispered, uncertainty mixing with longing in his eyes.
But what about our responsibilities? What if the Council...
The Council doesn't have our best interests at heart.
She interrupted, her frustration simmering.
They're blinded by their own fears and agendas. We have a chance to choose our destiny, Anakin. For once, we can take control of our lives instead of letting others dictate them.
Silence enveloped them, the weight of her proposal hanging heavily in the air. Anakin's expression shifted, doubt warring with desire.
You're serious about this? You want to run away from it all?
I'm serious, Anakin. We can find peace away from the conflict, away from the manipulation. I don't want to lose you to this war or the darkness that threatens to consume you, she said, her voice pleading. Please, let's take this leap together.
Slowly, the walls around Anakin's heart began to crack. He stepped closer, the internal struggle written across his face.
But what about the Jedi? What about the Republic?
Padme reached out, placing her hands on his shoulders.
The Republic is worth fighting for, but it doesn't have to define us. We can find our own way to serve the greater good, without losing ourselves in the process.
As the weight of her words settled between them, Anakin's expression softened, and for the first time, Padme saw a glimmer of hope reflected in his eyes.
And if we do this, if we leave, then we build a life where love and family come first.
She said, her voice unwavering.
Where we can embrace the future without fear.
With a deep breath, Anakin seemed to make a choice, one that transcended the constraints of his training and the Council's expectations.
I want that, Padme. I want us.
She could hardly believe the hope blooming in her chest. Together, they would embark on a journey to forge their destiny, free from the shadows of the Jedi and the Senate. The galaxy was vast, and while danger still lurked in the corners, Padme felt a renewed sense of purpose and strength. They would fight for their love, for their child, and for a future that belonged solely to them. In that moment, as they stood united against the tides of darkness, Padme knew that they would face whatever came next together. The weight of their decision hung heavy in the air as Anakin and Padmé Amidala made their way to the Jedi Temple. Their hearts beat in sync, a rhythm of determination and newfound purpose guiding them. Today, they would confront the Jedi Council together, a united front against the manipulation that had plagued their lives for far too long. As they entered the Council chamber, a profound silence enveloped them. The imposing figures of Master Yoda, Mace Windu, and Obi-Wan Kenobi regarded them with a mix of surprise and caution. The atmosphere crackled with tension, an unspoken acknowledgement of the confrontation that lay ahead.
Senator Amidala, Knight Skywalker.
Yoda greeted them, his eyes narrowing.
To what do we owe this visit?
Anakin stepped forward, his expression resolute.
We're here to discuss my training, Master Yoda. I can no longer be a tool for the Council's manipulation. Padme and I have discussed this, and I want to forge a new path.
Padme joined him, her voice strong and unwavering.
Anakin deserves to train in a manner that respects his autonomy and the life we're building together. We refuse to let the Jedi manipulate our relationship or dictate our choices.
Mace Windu's brow furrowed, skepticism etched on his face.
Your passion is admirable, but the Jedi Order has certain standards and responsibilities. We cannot simply allow personal feelings to compromise our mission.
Your mission has become a tool for control.
Anakin interjected, his voice rising.
I've felt the Council's distrust, the fear of my potential. But I'm not the enemy here. I want to protect the Republic and serve as a Jedi, but I refuse to be treated like a pawn.
Obi-Wan stepped forward, his tone measured yet concerned.
Anakin, the Council's intentions are to ensure balance within the Force. You know the darkness that lurks within you. It's a constant threat.
I understand that, Obi-Wan, but I need to train under terms that empower me rather than restrict me.
Anakin replied, a fire igniting in his gaze.
I want to explore my connection to the Force, but I need Padme's support, not the Jedi's manipulation. Together, we can create a balance that respects both my responsibilities as a Jedi and my commitments to my family.
Yoda's gaze shifted between the two, weighing the gravity of their words.
A difficult path you choose, Anakin. Understand the risk. You must.
Padme stepped forward, her eyes meeting Yoda's.
This isn't just about Anakin. This is about the future of the Jedi Order. If the Council continues to operate under fear and control, it will lead to more conflict, more suffering. We need reform, and I'm willing to work with the Jedi to create a system that fosters understanding and compassion.
Mace Windu's expression softened slightly.
What kind of reform do you propose?
We need transparency, accountability.
Padme began, her voice filled with conviction.
The Jedi should not be above the political system. They should be partners, working alongside representatives of the Republic to ensure that their power is used wisely and justly. If the Jedi are to lead, they must do so with the trust of the people.
Anakin nodded in agreement, his confidence growing.
I want to train, but I need to know that my choices matter. If the Jedi truly want to protect the Republic, they must adapt and embrace new ideas.
The council members exchanged glances, the weight of their combined proposals hanging heavily in the air. After a moment of silence, Yoda spoke.
A new understanding we can forge. Agree to training under your own terms, Anakin, while working with Padme to reform the Senate and the Jedi's role within it. Together, shape a new path for the future.
Anakin's expression brightened, and he turned to Padme, a mixture of relief and excitement flooding through him.
Thank you, Master Yoda. I promise to train with dedication and integrity.
And I'll work tirelessly to ensure that the Jedi can serve the Republic without losing themselves to fear and manipulation.
Padme added, her resolve solidifying. As they left the council chamber hand in hand, Padme felt a surge of hope coursing through her. This was only the beginning, but together they could create a new future, one where love, trust, and shared responsibility reigned over fear and control. The galaxy was vast and complex, but they were ready to face its challenges head-on, united in their vision for a brighter tomorrow. With the Jedi at their side, they would strive to reform the system that had once sought to divide them, forging a legacy for their child and ensuring that their love would be the foundation of a new era. Padme smiled at Anakin, knowing they were embarking on a path that could change the course of the galaxy forever. The sun set over Coruscant, casting a warm golden hue over the towering spires of the city planet. Padmé Amidala stood on the balcony of her apartment, the bustling sounds of the Republic echoing below. In the wake of her confrontation with the Jedi Council, she had embraced a new role, a bridge between the Jedi Order, the Senate, and the citizens of the galaxy. With Anakin by her side, they formed an alliance that transcended the traditional boundaries of politics and the Force. Their days were filled with meetings and discussions, each session fueled by Padme's unwavering resolve to reform the system. She approached her role as a senator with newfound vigor, her speeches resonating with passion and purpose. Citizens across the galaxy began to listen as she advocated for a more transparent government, one that recognized the importance of Jedi involvement without succumbing to fear and manipulation. Anakin, with his innate connection to the Force, became her most powerful ally. His insights into the Jedi's struggles provided a unique perspective that enriched Padme's proposals. Together, they developed a framework for cooperation between the Jedi and the Senate, emphasizing collaboration over control. Anakin's training under Yoda and Obi-Wan focused on self-discipline and understanding, allowing him to temper his impulses and channel his emotions productively. During one pivotal Senate session, Padme stood before her fellow senators, Anakin seated close by. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as she prepared to unveil a new initiative aimed at integrating Jedi responsibilities with the political landscape.
Honorable Senators,
She began, her voice steady and clear.
the Jedi have long served as guardians of peace in the galaxy. Yet, we have seen the consequences of a system that isolates them from the very people they protect. Today, I propose a new commission, one that includes representatives from both the Jedi Order and the Senate, tasked with ensuring that the power of the Jedi is utilized responsibly and ethically. Whispers rippled through the chamber, some senators appearing intrigued, while others frowned in skepticism. Padme continued, "This commission will promote transparency and accountability, enabling us to address the concerns of the public and to build trust between our institutions. We must remember that the strength of the Republic lies in its unity. We can only protect our citizens if we work together."
As she spoke, Anakin watched her with pride swelling in his chest. Her words were a call to action, a lifeline for a Republic on the brink of chaos. He felt the echoes of her passion resonate through the Force, a light that could guide them all. Following Padme's speech, discussions unfolded about the Commission's framework, with several senators expressing support for the initiative. The tides were turning, but there were still obstacles to overcome. After the session, Padme and Anakin retreated to their apartment. the weight of the day's events lingering in the air.
You were incredible today, Padme.
Anakin said, taking her hands in his.
The way you articulated our vision for the future, your strength inspires me.
Padme smiled, though her brow furrowed with concern.
It's just the beginning, Anakin. There are many who will resist change, especially those who fear losing their power. We must be prepared for pushback.
Anakin nodded, determination flickering in his eyes.
Together we'll face whatever comes our way. I'm with you, and I know the Jedi will stand behind us.
With their roles intertwined, they began to form task forces, reaching out to both Jedi and senators willing to collaborate on their reform initiative. They organized public forums, inviting citizens to share their thoughts and concerns about the Jedi's involvement in political matters. Anakin's charisma and Padme's eloquence drew crowds, rekindling hope among the people. As weeks turned into months, their bond deepened. Anakin practiced his skills in the field, learning to navigate complex situations with diplomacy while also honing his abilities as a Jedi. Padme found herself leaning on him more, trusting his instincts and insights as they faced the challenges ahead. One afternoon, while preparing for a joint session with the Senate and Jedi representatives, Padme reflected on how far they had come. She felt a sense of pride at the progress they had made.
We're building something incredible, Anakin,
she said, watching as he practiced his lightsaber forms in their training room.
The Commission will reshape the future of the Republic, ensuring that the Jedi can protect without being manipulated.
Anakin paused, his breath steadying as he turned to her.
And it's all because of you, Padme. You're the reason we're breaking down these barriers. You're the bridge that connects us all.
Not just me,
she replied, stepping closer, her eyes bright with determination.
It's us. Together, we can redefine what it means to serve the Republic.
As they stood united, hand in hand, a profound sense of purpose filled the room. They were no longer just a senator and a Jedi. They were partners, committed to transforming the galaxy for the better. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, armed with love, trust, and a shared vision for a future where the light of hope could shine brightly amid the darkness. Hope you enjoy this episode of What If. If you like content like this, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and as always, may the Force be with you.